Thank you for that. Thank you. It's always good to remind ourselves who we are, right? And that's the reason we're all here today. Without really any waste of time, I wish to introduce our next speaker. In these conversations that we're having, who's going to be speaking about discrimination in the newsroom. Her name is Boikutso Tsikane. She is the print and digital publishing manager at MDDA. A round of applause, please. But I'm gonna, fully introduce you to her. Kutso Tsikane is the print and digital publishing manager with the Media Development and Diversity Agency, that's the MDDA. She has completed an MSc in Media and Development from the London School of Economics and Political Sciences. Through the Chevening Scholarship, she holds a Journalism and Media Management Honours degree from Rhodes University. She was awarded the Gavin Stewart and John Platon Prize for Journalism and the Sylvester Stein Award by the Conan Collins Trust. Kutso's interest in the media policy sector has seen her complete a course in broadcast and digital media policy and regulatory trends from Wertz Link Center. She has a wealth of experience in storytelling, content production, and media funding. Her commitment to reshaping Africa's narrative on the global scale has seen her on various African fellowships and global scholarships, from Ghana to England. She is also interested in the use of information communication technology in accelerating the Sustainable Development Goals. Kutso is passionate about data ethics and the socio-economic impact of ICT policies in developing countries. She has a fervent focus on social justice, dignity, and vulnerability in the community media sector. A round of applause to Kutso Tsikane. Indlovukazi, Imbokodo.
Thank you. I am deeply, deeply honored. What a lovely and warm introduction. Thank you for this opportunity. I think whenever you are asked to speak to a group of students, you are automatically taken back to when you were also, I was a journalism student, and all I can say is that the world is your oyster. I think as communications and media and journalism scholars, your skills are what's going to take you so much further than you think. You're entering a space that is constantly evolving, and you can always have questions about where you'll end up, but our country is moving more towards a skills-based economy, so you'll hone your skills. That's where you're going to land up in civil society, in advocacy, in government. You're going to land up in corporate. You'll be managing projects. You'll be in communications roles. So your skill set is what you need to hold on to. So I'm really excited because as much as you're all studying media and communications, you don't know what awaits you. You think you know, but you don't. We all study something similar, but the panel comes from such different backgrounds. So unlike your colleagues whose paths are very, they know what the next step is. Your job is to find what really moves you and move in that direction. So I'm really excited to be speaking to you guys today. So one of the things that I wanted to, when I was thinking about what's the key message that I can leave with you today, I was taken to one of the glass ceilings reports that Mema Hlatsi offered her forward in 2018. That stuck with me because, in her opening, she was trying to find a defining moment in her career as a journalist. And she listed all the isms that women in media and generally in the workplace, they grapple with. Do you focus on sexism? So I was also trying to figure out discrimination in the newsroom. Should I focus on the sexism, where despite how modestly you dress, you will always receive unwelcome comments, from your male counterparts, and just blatant harassment, right? Do we focus on the ageism, that she's too young to lead, or what does it take to manage older colleagues. I am the youngest manager at my workplace, and that is it's a task, you know. Or do we focus on the sort of the discriminatory gender wage gap? Or more specifically, you know, the motherhood penalty, as they call it, that pushes women into the informal and part-time work, where, you know, men are still being paid significantly more than, you know, it's the equal pay for equal work, for the value of equal work, right? We do the same amount of work, we have the same amount of skills, we put in the same amount of work, but the gap is still wide, you know, or what do we, there's so much to focus on, right? Or do we focus on the racism that's still prevalent in our workplaces? So while a lot of workplaces have really managed to grapple and, you know, have a better handle on sort of like physical harassment or, you know, more covert and subtle forms of discrimination are what we can talk about, you know. So it's easier, we can identify racism, we can identify sexism, ageism, but what are the other forms of discrimination that not only find themselves in the newsroom, but generally in workplaces, right, that are equally as damaging? So one of those that I'll spend a bit of time on are the reasons why women struggle to break through the glass ceiling, despite our educational strides, right, and the general improvements in the labor market. So this is the issue of doing what is called non-promotable tasks or dead-end work, right? So research by Dr. Lisa Vesterland, who's an economist and a professor at the University of Pittsburgh. She's also an expert on non-promotable tasks, or what they can also be called unrewarded responsibilities. Her and her colleagues, they researched why women often get assigned more non-promotable work, and why we also volunteer more than our male counterparts. And then they also studied the opportunity cost of what it means to always say yes to everything, and what you're actually saying no to. Because always saying yes to everything means you're saying no to the work that matters, right? And this was also in a podcast that I encourage you guys to listen to. It's called Women at Work by the Harvard Business Review. They had an episode years ago that always stayed with me that was called Do Less, Dead End Work. And they focused on trying to understand this form of subtle discrimination. So this is that bullet point in everyone's job description that says you'll be expected to perform other duties as assigned, right? And I think everyone accepts that from time to time you'll always be asked to do different tasks than what you were hired for. But here we're talking about that trend, that pattern, where it's a lot more destructive for women's career paths to always to find yourself doing office housework, right? So this is discriminatory behavior, and it's always disproportionately, it affects women. So this is, you know, doing those, like office parties, you are the one finding yourself contributing, like fetching contributions for your colleagues' baby showers, you're watering the office plants, right? You're always ordering lunch, you're doing all those other work, and they take up a lot of your time, right? That's what, you know, we call office housework. And it's also the quality of work that you're assigned. So are you always assigned the sort of softer stories or the good news, or doing more desktop research, or you're not as in the field as much as your colleagues, or you're not being given the opportunity to do long, in-depth investigative pieces, or longer, you know, work that requires you to put your skills to work. And you'll definitely be exposed to this in the beginning of your career. You know, you are leaving, you know, the sort of safety nets of academia, and you are going into a field where you have to do extra work. You have to put in the work, and this is where that beginning part of your career is where you have to practice, you know, knowing what you are hired to do, and you know, you're not silencing the parts of yourself that have made you choose this career that you're in. If you're hired to write stories, do you find yourself writing your stories, or are you, you know, doing research for your colleagues to add to their stories, right? When it's time to sit down and evaluate who needs to be promoted, they're not going to say, oh, but Puseletso organized the office party, the year-end party. Puseletso She assisted with training new hires. So when you find yourself preoccupied with work that is, you have to be very careful about the work that you find yourself preoccupied with. It is work. It is good for any organization, but when you, at the end of the week, you realize that the gap between what you've been spending hours on and what you've been hired to produce, the thinking work, the hard work, the more that gap widens, then you find yourself very early on in that category that you are doing non-promotable work. And then, it sort of perpetuates your male counterparts always succeeding a lot faster than you are. So my key message is that you have to be invested in doing the hard work. All those things that are challenging, that's where you need to stay. The harder it gets, the more you need to continue doing that. It's easier to do, all the sort of feel good, support tasks at work. But your real work there is to really deepen your skill set, right? And make sure that you are always aligning your what you're doing with your career trajectory. So as you enter this workspace, whether it's newsrooms or, in the communications field, so like Slindile said, you guys are the future of, we're sitting in the future of really influential young minds. You should start practicing. You need to know what it means to say no very early on. It's easier and it's a lot more comfortable for women to always say yes to things. Yes, I'll do this, yes. Even when deep down you don't want to, And you also are striking that balance between, being a team player. You have to be a team player at work. People want to work with pleasant people, but you always have to develop your ability to say no when you're young. Because when you're older, and I'm still young, so I'm also still developing that. So what I want to say is that in the workplace, whenever we find ourselves, stuck and you feel like you're not moving, it's always important to ask yourself, what is it that are you preoccupied with? Are you doing the hard work, the deep work, the thinking work, the work that is you're not ordering lunch for your colleagues, right? You need to strike a very good balance very early on in your career. Because as I said, no is a doing word. You have to practice it. And the more you are able to say, it's easier to identify other forms of discrimination. But the more subtle ones are a lot harder to identify, because sometimes even the people that are perpetuating it aren't aware that, if you have a male manager who constantly assigns you to taking notes, they're not aware. Sometimes they're not doing it on purpose, right? But you have to say, no, I took notes last time. Can someone else take notes this time around? Or else you'll be the office note taker, right? And you're not hired for that. So so this is just another, a reminder that we, as young women in these fields, whether it's a newsroom or, any other workplace you find yourself in, you have to prioritize your work, right? Your skill set, deepening that skill set and practice saying no. So what I'd like to leave you with, my parting message, is that, as you is to encourage you to read Audre Lorde's 1977 speech that's titled The Transformation of Silence into Language and Action. And I'd like to just read the first sentence. It says, I've come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal, and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. That the speaking profits me beyond any other effect. I'm standing here as a Black lesbian poet, and the meaning of that awaits upon the fact that I'm still alive and might not have been. So you have a responsibility to yourself and to speak up, as challenging as it might be. But I think in the Q&A we can discuss more, so that I'm not leaving with a grim message. We can leave with sort of a future focus and what does it mean to push back in the ways in which you can push back, and finding workplaces that are supportive. How do you identify supportive workspaces? Because, something that Slee said earlier, that she's the only female senior journalist, that cannot, that needs to be deeply uncomfortable for us. And we need to find ourselves in spaces where women are able to rise. SLE cannot be an exception that we are okay with. We need to be able to see more of ourselves in those spaces. And how do we do that? And when you find yourself being the only one, what are your support systems? What are your coping mechanisms? So I'd like to leave us at that, and we can discuss more. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Vukoso. We're gonna go straight to Q&A. Yes, so if we have questions for her, now's the time. Okay.
Good day. I am Mohau and under Integrated Communication. Well, I wanted to ask, do you think that in a workplace, in a corporate workplace, women are given those small tasks just because it is believed that women are more talented in multitasking than men? Or is it like something that is like, do you think like men are just putting that pressure on women because they don't want to do their jobs, those small jobs that don't really give credit?
Should I take one more?
Yeah, you can take around.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Surprise. My question is, how can we try to change an organization to be supportive if it's currently not, so that we can try to get better for an upcoming generation?
Okay. So definitely, I do not think that women are assigned a lot more of these tasks because they're good multitaskers. I think our workplaces are a reflection and a microcosm of society. We, these are tasks that even at home, whether you're at work or not, you find yourself doing these extra tasks. But what is important to remember is that is not what you're at work for. You can do those if you love that. There are people whose personalities just they are prone to those kind of activities, but that is not what work is for. You are at work for your skills and for your career, and to contribute to the organization in the way that you have been skilled to. Right? You're a professional at work. So it's about finding ways to make those kind of tasks rotational. Those tasks will need to be done. Any organization needs to have, sort of feel-good activities, but it's only a problem when it disproportionately affects the women in the workplace, right? So you don't want to find yourself being preoccupied with the work that does not contribute to your skill set. I think that's that. What was the other question? I think it's about speaking up. Sometimes work culture, you get into an organization and the culture is already set, right? And everyone expects, the roles are quite set. So until you speak up and you develop that ability to say, sorry, I'm not a bit comfortable with this, or you have a safe space where you can say, this is making me feel a bit, uncomfortable, but the onus is on you to speak up, unfortunately, because there's no, it's not intentional that some workspaces are created in a way that are going to, make you feel discriminated against. But when you speak up, then the onus becomes on the organization to say, okay, this is what we're seeing. What systems do we put in place to make sure that the workplace is about equality and it's about productivity? And those are the two things that always have to take precedent. We're at work to work, and we are at work as equals.
More questions?
My question could be a little bit out of context, but do you think that the justice system of South Africa is doing enough to deal with cases such as abuse and other indecencies that women encounter?
That they encounter in the workplace.
In general,
No, so I don't think we're doing enough to support women. I think they are, we live in a country that where, the gender-based violence is incredibly high. And if we had a justice system that was receptive to hearing women, to believing women, to advocating for them, we would not find ourselves in the situation that we find ourselves in the country. So a lot more can be done, whether it's in the workplace or at home, to make sure that as women we feel safe in the country, which is not the case.
I see we have one, two hands. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Lucy, and I'm a first-year integrated communication student. My question is about how exactly did you become the way that you are, the perspective that you have about how you conduct yourself in a professional space. I don't know if you were like that from the beginning or if there was a defining moment. If there was a defining moment, I'd like to know when that happened. Thank you.
So I'm not sure, right, if I've always been this way, but I've always been preoccupied with human rights in general, to make sure that you find yourself in spaces where there is equality, where the power dynamics are not in favor of certain people or certain groups, or that, prejudice certain groups, certain marginalized groups. So that is something, and I think maybe that's why you study journalism. You become more aware of inequality. You become more aware of what it means to give a voice to the voiceless, right? Or to shine a light on injustice. So that is not something that lives in textbooks. It's something that you see on a daily basis. You have to practice it, whether you're at home or you are writing a story or you're at work, where you cannot have studied about inequality, and then when you see it, you are not able to call it out. So I don't think there's been a defining moment in my life. I think I have sort of established a good group of a support group or peers, right? One of the things is that you have to find your tribe, you have to find community, and then you realize that a lot of the issues that you are facing at work, whether it's in the newsroom or in corporate, they are quite similar. If you are progressing at the same age with your peers, right? To say, at this age, I'm already being propelled into this level. How do you deal, or how do you manage older colleagues? How do you make sure that you lead a team where you are, you focus on people's skills and their experiences and the value that they add, more than what they look like, their backgrounds, where they come from. But you also make sure that whenever you find yourself in a space, there is a sense of, it's a safe space, there's a sense of equality. And if there isn't, what are you going to do? What is the call to action?
I don't know. Hi. I don't know if my question is relating to this, but it's more like an advice. how do you build a foundation when you get into the workplace? Like you get an internship, you are still new, you're from the academic world, you don't know anything about the job. How do you build the foundation for them to trust you? Like when they give you a task, they want you maybe to do that work. If you submit that work and make mistakes, and they ask a senior who knows more about the job to do that work for you instead of correcting your mistake, how do you deal with that?
I mean, if you want to. So I think when you are young and you are starting out, there's no job that can't be learned, right? So if, as you're saying, you're coming in as an intern, that is what an internship is, to learn, right? So you are getting into an environment where you're going to be, you know the basics. So I don't think you ever walk into a space not knowing anything. You know, you've been studying and there is something that you know. So never ever think that you know nothing about the work that you're going into. But what you're there to do is learn how it is done in that environment. And I think it's just about identifying environments that are not punitive when you make mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes. Mistakes are not at the realm of at an intern level or at a junior level. Everyone makes mistakes in their careers, but it's about finding yourself in teams or having managers that critique you upwards, right? To say you can do better in this way, but not to tear you down. And those are the subtle ways that you can see whether you'll be able to grow here, because everyone makes mistakes at work, but yours is to learn how to do it better, and to feel good about being taught how to do better. So you also have to be teachable. You have to be teachable, you have to ask for help. And when you make mistakes, it's not a reflection of who you are, right? So your work is but one part of who you are. Hopefully, right? That it's not your entire life. That if you make a mistake at work, it is not reflective that you as a person cannot do this thing. You just made a mistake, and you do not, and you learn very early not to internalize mistakes, because everyone makes them, and we learn and we grow.
So for me, sorry, Pupuma. Practically with that, so you guys are learning here new skills that the guys who are already in the journalism industry do not have. And one of the best ways to make yourself stand out is to get into a newsroom, and when they're like, oh, who can do this? We need, and you're like, I can do that. And that's a skill the other seniors don't have. They are great reporters, they are great at storytelling, but they don't have that because it's relatively new. There's a lot going on about how AI is impacting the news industry and how we can use it, not just fear it and be like, oh, it's going to take jobs, but how do we use this to enhance what we do? If you get into a newsroom and you can already offer, oh, I know how to do that, I'll help with that, that makes you stand out. And that will go a long way. And sometimes you do make mistakes. It's fine. One of the things that I would encourage you guys to also learn is to handle yourself confidently, and not arrogantly, but confidently. Because sometimes I've seen with young journalists coming in as interns, they doubt themselves so much. They exude that doubt. And when you exude the doubt, I can't trust you. So even if you're still learning, have the confidence to be like, I want to try. And any good manager will identify someone who's given a task their all, even if it wasn't great. And that, for me anyway, is more valuable, because this is a person we can work with. This is a person who's willing to try. We can do this. So just have the confidence to be like, yeah, I want to try that. I want to do that. I might mess it up somewhere, but I want to do it. And be adventurous, yeah.
I just wanted to give you guys a practical example. When I switched from radio to television, I took a pay cut, by the way. Yeah, I took a pay cut. I was earning way more when I left radio than I was when I started out in television, right? But I had an idea, I had a goal, I knew what I wanted for my career, and I knew that I had reached the ceiling where I was. So there I was, and I started in December of 2017 at ENCA. Mind you, I don't have leave, obviously. I'm literally starting out. I basically started out as an intern. I would equate that job as an intern when I started out at ENCA. And I was strategic about when I wanted to start because I knew in December people are going to take leave. The newsroom is going to be empty, but there's going to be news. News does not sleep, right? So, Lord and behold, it's the 29th or the 30th of December. There's a huge hailstorm in the south of Johannesburg. There's no one in the newsroom except who? Me. So who are they going to send out? Me, right? So you look for those gaps, look for those opportunities where you can be able to show what you have, you know. Mind you, I went live for the first time on national television with no training, nothing, just off the cuff to say, look, I can do it, I'm here. I can do it. I might mess up, but I can do it. And they had no choice but to trust me, right? But you also need to trust yourself to say that I can do this and see those gaps, see those opportunities, be willing to do things that people aren't going to do. I worked extremely long hours for months, if not years on end, to show that I am able to do this. And that will show your managers that we can trust this particular person with this task. And I definitely agree that when you start out as an intern, exude confidence, you know, trust yourself, trust what you've learned at school, and watch your peers, watch your colleagues, see how they do their work, and ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Thank you so much for that. Do we have any more questions?
Not so much a question, but a comment.
Yes, yes. Let me give you the mic.
Good afternoon. I'm Nomkosi Peter, and I'm the acting CEO of the MDDA. And I just wanted to present a different perspective, building on what Kutso has presented. From the other side of the table, when you're now a manager and you're confronted with a young, dynamic woman who is inexperienced, but is exuding confidence and is just willing to try. Kutso is living testament of that. She's the youngest manager at the MDDA. When I arrived, I was so ill-equipped in many respects, but I immediately identified Kutso as someone who was willing to get her hands dirty. And it's not to say that you would abuse people like that, but you afford them the opportunity, you give them access to platforms that then give them a step up in their own careers. So building on what Tusilindelo said about putting your hand up, even when there isn't a question that has been posed, that hand must constantly be visible. People must sense it from you that you're willing to dive in. You're willing to put yourself out there, even in spaces that are uncomfortable. Take up that space.
Absolutely. Gosh, that just gave me serious goosebumps. You know, obviously you need to take up that space, cement it, you know, take ownership and be confident about it. You know, now it's the time, and you are all enough. You are all enough. And I think that's a message they've been saying over and over again, that you are enough and you can do it. Any more questions? Oh, one more. Oh.
Thank you. I think to add on that, Papama, to what my colleagues have just said, I can relate. When I got into the radio space, I make sure that I want to explore each and every area of radio. I could do field reporting, I could do producing, I could do news reading, presenting. I make sure that I explore any area that has to do with radio. And I'm here where I am today because of that, because I made use of that opportunity to say, I want to learn everything about radio if an opportunity presents itself. And I did just that.
True that. Persistence always, will take you far. I mean, I don't know how many times I've failed, but you get up, literally get up and you try again until you get it right, So there's no success without failure. I don't know anyone who can confidently say that, I got this far without, making mistakes, messing up. That's how we learn. It's like a kid when they're growing up, and they touch fire or heater or whatever, It's part of learning. They know next time they're not supposed to do that, So it's that's how life is, in different environments. Any more question? I think I saw one, and then we close. We move on to the next speaker.
Good day. My name is Letabo Nyalunga, and I am a second year in integrated communication. I don't really know how to place this question, so I'm going to try. You mentioned something about being given tasks in the work environment that are not part of your job description. How did you ever experience that, and how did you go about dealing with it? Thank you.
Okay.
So definitely, when you work, you are there to assist an organization in a lot of different ways. So it's about a balance, right? So you have to make sure that even when you say yes to all the extra things, your core work is not being jeopardized, because that is what you are there for. So when you find yourself doing all the extra things, if you are able to, you do what you can, but you do not take on more than that jeopardizes the work that you are there for, because at the end of the day, it's the work that is building you, that has skills, that you've been identified to work on, that is a lot, that has to take precedent over the other things. So it's always a give and take. It's not a no. It's a no here, yes here, not this time around, can I do it next time? Do you mind if I do it in a week's time? So it's about developing those traits, or that response that doesn't always jeopardize the work that you need to do, that will grow you. So yes, we all experience that, we all do that, but just make sure that you're not always doing it. You strike a balance.
Should we close? Oh, one more. Okay.
Afternoon. Yeah, my name is Laketwala. I hold a BTech in journalism. I think I have a very vital question to ask for this group, to be specific. I just wanted to find out. Obviously, it's not easy being an intern, whether you are working in private or a public space. So how do you turn an internship into a permanent position? Yes, that's my question.
Now we understand where the word vital.
Yes. And that is the question, right? So we have interns, actually, that we've come with from work, from the MDDA, Puseletso and Kamani. Probably they are in a better position to talk about their internship experience. But what we see on the other side is really, people who volunteer, people who step up, people who get a job done, right? So sometimes it's not about doing the work perfectly. They always say the best thesis is a finished one. It's not a perfect one. You get to a point where you are always when you're an intern, you are being exposed to so many different parts of an organization, and you're just there to learn, to offer assistance, to add value. So you use that. As someone once said, an internship is like a year-long interview, It's easy to do an interview for like an hour where you say you can't do all these things, you can. But when you're in an internship, you have the whole period of that internship for us to see whether, even if you can't, what is your attitude? Because I think mostly people want to retain people that have a workable attitude and are teachable. No one is expecting perfection from interns, but we want to retain people that understand the work that we do, are interested in it. It's very easy to see when someone is, because of the economy that we live in, where you're just in a job because you're just in a job. But there's a difference between being employed, but also enjoying the work that you do, being interested in it. Do you go over and above in terms of researching how much more you can assist? Do you try find the gaps that, or to assist the team in the ways that they are maybe struggling? So if we struggle with the small things, but we can do the big things, are you volunteering to do those small things that assist us? So it's just about being teachable, having the right attitude, and showing an interest in your work. I think that's more.
I do. So also a little testimony for me. So after I finished my journalism education in 2013, at around November, October that time, I went and did an internship at Frey Intermedia, which is owned by Paula Frey, who founded Frey College, where I work now. I interned for 2 months. This was in 2013, November, December, and half of January, and I left. In 2021, I get a call from Paula. She says, "Mama Ponya, what are you doing? Come for coffee." And then after that coffee, I took over her position as CEO. And she only knew me from being her intern. And that's because people will identify a good attitude. And a good attitude will help you to learn. There's some people who, no matter how much you teach them, it just does not get better. So, and it's not getting better not because they can't learn, but because their head is somewhere else. So if you put your all and you have a great attitude and you're actually doing the work, it will speak volumes for you. It will create a reputation for you. You don't go around with a toxic attitude where nobody wants to work with you ever again. But you respect people. You are assertive and you fight for yourself, but you respect people. You work hard. You have a great attitude. That will do wonders for you.
Yeah, I think I can agree with everything that my fellow panelists have said. What I've found is that employers will always, 9 times out of 10, pick somebody who works, who's willing to do the work, as opposed to somebody who's going to do the work perfectly, right? As long as you're willing to do the work and you have a really good attitude to say, I can do it, teach me, show me, then you're 9 times out of 10 going to keep the job. Just a little testimonial myself. When I got the internship at Jacaranda FM after I left campus radio, the internship was for a year. I think it was ending, I think it started in like March of, 2013 to March of 2014. And on the last day of the internship, like nobody had spoken to me like, okay, Slee, we're going to, like, thanks for your services, or, we're going to keep you, nothing. Until the very last day because I knew in my contract, okay, my contract is going to end on the 30th of March. So I go to my manager and I'm like, hi, so I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And he's like, what are you saying? I'm like, today's my last day. They're like, no, man, what are you talking about? You're staying. We'll sort the contract out next week, but you better report for work tomorrow, So just like, it's just really like showing what you can do and to say like, I can do this job. Like, just give me any task, I can do it. And if I don't know how to do it, just show me and I'll be able to do it. That's all.
Well, that question was very much necessary. By the way, like he's interning in my office, so the pressure, man, that you're putting us on. But anyway, thank you so much for that. We have another great woman in our midst. Her name is Nomonde Mnukwa. She's our next speaker, and she's going to be speaking on the value of serving in the government communication sector and being part of building an empowered citizenry. Nomonde Mnukwa is the acting government spokesperson and the GCIS acting director general. It's a big deal. As I said, currently employed as the Deputy Director General, Corporate Services at the GCIS and acting as Director General and Government Spokesperson. She holds a Master's in Business Administration and a postgraduate diploma in Business Management, both from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She has a degree in social work from the University of Transkei, now WSU, diploma in project management, and a certificate in public relations from Demlin. She started work as a provincial specialist assistant at the Independent Broadcasting Authority in its Durban offices, further moved to the water sector where she worked for various institutions, including Vula Trust, Herigwala District Municipality, Department of Water Affairs, and Amatola Water, where she held senior and executive management positions. Also worked in the departments of Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development, Gauteng Office of the Premier, Small Business Development, Msunduzi Municipality, in various senior and executive management positions. She's very passionate about women, youth, empowerment, and general community development. A big round of applause.
Program director, the beautiful lady. Imbogodo, the youth, the future of tomorrow, both in the venue and online, my colleagues, the fellow speakers, the professors there, the TUT management and members of the media, Dumelang, the Macheloni, good morning. It is a great honor and a privilege for me to be part of what is happening today. And I do believe that you've already are full, ne? You are really full, not yet. You still have a space. Okay, let's see. All right, mine is just, colleagues, to make sure that we share information in terms of what is it when we are saying we are public servants as communicators. What we mean is that we serve the public. Without the public, there's no need for us. We are the bridge builders, particularly in our country whereby we have a very diverse nation. We have the rich, we have the poor, we have the learned, we have the illiterate. And as government communicators, it is our responsibility to make it a point that everyone in the country feels as a first citizens in the country. It is our responsibility. It's our responsibility to translate the government policies, the decisions that government makes and the commitments into the languages and the narratives that resonate with every citizen, regardless of their background. Ours is to treat everyone equally, is to make it a point that whomsoever doesn't have money and somebody who's moneyed, they feel treated equally. By doing so, we promote inclusivity, we promote social cohesion, we strengthen the fabric of our nation. We want to bring everybody together to be behind the flag South Africa. Colleagues, we all are aware that the gender-based violence is now being termed a pandemic. It is felt in all levels in our society. The young, the old, the rich, the poor, and all races. We are not immune to gender-based violence. And I think it's something that is literally not new. It was there during our grandparents' time. It was there during our mother's time. The challenge at the time was they were not talking about it. And because they were not talking about it, it became embedded in the culture of our country. And because it became embedded, the perpetrators, they believe is something that is right that they are doing. They don't see anything wrong. And it is a challenge to us, particularly communicators, be it you are in the media space, be it you are a communicator in whatsoever level that you occupy, that we create a platform whereby we talk, but not focus more on the problem, but pave way of the nation changing the narrative, us getting solutions. We need a voice of the youth as much louder than any other voice, because we are here, some of us already, gone in age, but we wouldn't want a situation whereby 10 years to come, South Africa is still where we are, still saying the same thing, still reporting on the same problems. We want a situation whereby we act now, we need to change the narrative, we need to change the landscape. It's our responsibility. It's in our hands. Our collective efforts, they will ensure that we change the landscape. Some individuals have done it before us. However, we all know when you do something as an individual, we can go to a certain level. But when we are all collected, putting together all our efforts, working towards one vision, we are able to get quicker to where we want to go. Basically, the work, it starts now. If as an individual, when you are conversing with your people, you are not talking about these solutions to the challenges that we face as a nation, it is an opportunity when we get out of this room. Let's start now to talk about solutions. I think we have had enough of the problems. We are so good in identifying them. We are so good in defining them. We are even so good even in giving them acronyms and phrases and etc. And that on its own, it is what contributes to a depressed mood in the nation. Because we spend so much energy and so much time around the problem. However, we put little time to say, what is a solution? What is it that I will do? What is it that together we can do? What is it that as this community and this society we can do? And besides doing or saying that, you then say, when do we start? And you look back and say, what is it that we have done? Has it made a difference? And what is it that we need to change and do better? Basically, colleagues, we have lots of resources at our disposal. The first one is our brains. We have so much intellect. even in this room alone. The second one is the time that we have. The third one is the energy that we have. Can we refocus those and put them towards solutions, implementation of solutions? You might not want to hear this from me, colleagues, because I'm a government spokesperson, but the reality is we are in a democratic country. And if we are in a democratic country, we're saying we are a government of the people, by the people. Exactly. And the challenge is we always look at what is government going to be doing it for me? We're not looking at what is it that I can do with government. We are also not looking at if government is walking this lane, there is this gap. What is it that I can do in this gap? We may be focusing on cyberbullying today, but we know that the attitude that we see on social media towards women is just an extension of what happens in homes and communities. And some of us, we are even subtle perpetrators of such. I think we have heard that some of the people that were contributing, even by laughing, colleagues, because when you laugh at an act, you are actually promoting it. You are saying it is right. So we need to stand up. A no is a no. This is our country, and we have to shape it. Some people might say, Baba, I am leaving South Africa, but some of us, maybe not you, but me, I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm here to stay. I don't have anywhere else to go. And therefore, I can't expect that there should be a miracle that come and solve the space where I'm living. I'm responsible to ensure that South Africa becomes a better country. It becomes that what I envision and I would want to have it tomorrow and to have my children having it. The effects of online violence or cyberbullying, they can be devastating, colleagues. Leaving the targeted person feeling very hurt, humiliated, angry, depressed, and I'm sure you all know that there are people who have even committed suicide due to cyberbullying. And it has to stop. And it starts with me and you right now. I want to remind you today that you are about the power that we possess as women and youth. Maybe we underestimate the power that we have, colleagues. We are in the Women's Month, August. It's women who changed the narrative. They were carrying babies in their bags. We talk about June 16. It was the youth that changed the narrative. So we possess so much power. We just need to reshape how we use it for constructive, for building, for positive things. We just need to get out of strife and the pulling him or her down and all those kind of things. And if you are being targeted online, I'm not going to talk more because the colleagues, they have talked about it. But the power is within you. You can't control what the other person will be doing, will be saying, will be responding, will be reacting. But you have total control of yourself. And because you have total control of yourself, it's a decision that is upon you on whether do you want to give them the platform to abuse you more, or do you switch off, you block, you ignore, and deal with your own emotions. If you need help, get that help. However, don't be an enabler for your perpetrators to continue bullying you. It is important, colleagues, that when we get to be bullied in this platform, we save the evidence. Screen grab, screenshot, whatever that you call it. If it's a voice note, you keep it as well. You keep everything. Because we are starting as government to create enablers to deal with cyberbullying as a crime. And therefore, like any other crime, you need evidence to that effect. We might not be moving in the pace that you want because the introduction of social media platforms, it came so unexpectedly and it grew so rapidly without the capacity of then saying, how do we deal with the threats that might come as a spin-off to that? And in fact, it was never foreseen that the platforms that are created for good, they can work to our disadvantage. And therefore, colleagues, I will also leave the number. We have tip-off line in terms of reporting cybercrime. Is the number that you know for police, 0860-010-111. You might have challenges, but behind the scenes, we are working on ensuring that line is effective and efficient. So it is important that whatsoever information that you have, you keep it so that when you go to report, there's evidence. The value of serving in government communication sector, colleagues, is far beyond what catches the eye. As government communicators, we have a responsibility to provide on time, that is real time, credible information as prescribed in our beautiful constitution. And we have the best constitution, by the way, in the world. It is our responsibility to communicate to South Africans about the issues that are pertinent in their lives. Issues that are going to empower them, that are going to capacitate them, that are going to make them to know what opportunities are available and seize those opportunities. It is about providing empowering information, progress on government commitments, and key developments, and most importantly, in the languages that the citizens most understand. It is our responsibility as government communicators to communicate also outside South Africa about South Africa. So in the continent and in the world at large, it is our responsibility to create pride about our nation. At some point in time, I got to be having a discussion with my son, that young one, last born. I think it was 3 years back or whatsoever. We're talking about the Hollywoods, the USA, the whatsoever. So shocked when I said there are slums in America. He said, no, there's no way. Because it's how Americans project their nation to the world. They make it to be the best country and continent on earth. And we look at their loyalty to their country. And they know what to say in the social media platforms and what not to say. And they know the platforms that they can use within their own continent and their own countries to deal with the challenges that they have. So that instead of something being a topical issue because it's a problem, they get to engage whereby they are looking for solutions and holding people accountable. So basically, when I'm talking about loyalty to South Africa, I'm not saying propaganda, Slinde. I'm not saying propaganda. I'm saying you get to have a certain customer experience from government, find what government structures exist to respond to that. Because talking about it in the media is just going to be solving your only problem. It's not going to go to the root cause. Because that's how our problem solving skills are. You raise it in the media, we deal with your problem, and you are sorted, you are happy, you're keeping quiet. It's a normal human behavior. But you raise it in the structures, we get to understand that there is a problem deeper, and let's find a sustainable solution. So that's how we just need to change how we do things. Right now, we did a research, I think it was April, if I'm not mistaken. The mood in our country is so bad. So bad. But the question that I ask, outside being a government communicator, when I was sitting at home now being a normal citizen, was how many foreigners do we have in our country? When I'm talking about foreigners, remember, I'm not talking about Africans. I'm talking about general foreign people who come and stay in our country. So you may call those who are buying those houses in Cape Town that cost around 75 million, 100 and something million. They are also foreigners. So I then said to myself, if we have this huge number of people attracted to come to our country, to stay, to invest, because to buy a huge million house is just not a child's play. So they are investing, and they're looking at South Africa as their homes, because you wouldn't buy a house where you don't believe that you belong. And we have the ones that, no matter how much we do say, make it a point that there are people who are saying, we're not going anywhere. We're staying in South Africa. And my question is, us as South Africans, so depressed, where are we moving to? If people are moving to our own country, meaning which is a better place in their eyes, us as South Africans, where are we moving to? And it is my call that as you go out there, being journalists, being producers, being whatsoever, you then assist the country, not the government, to find what are the beautiful stories that we can pride ourselves on as a nation. It was just end of July, beginning August. We had Banyana in a World Cup. We had a netball proteas in a World Cup. We now have the Springboks in a World Cup. I think we have cricket as well coming off, already gone. We had lots of university students who have won gold, silver, and all the kind of medals in the international tertiary athletics. The challenge, I think, is more on how do we look at that what is good and make it to be amplified in our own minds, such that when we look at problems, we then say, how do we solve the problems? Because if we are a nation that is able, within a period of 2 months, to have so many teams diverse in the World Cup, I then, as a person, not as a government spokesperson, say, there's something good about South Africa. But it becomes my responsibility to go and find it. But also remember, depression or depressed mood is informed about your feelings, what your eyes see, and how you think as well. I'm not downplaying the major challenges that we have as a nation. I'm not downplaying them. But all that I'm saying is, in them, can we collectively find solutions so that also they can move from being these serious challenges to the side of creating a better South Africa for all of us to live in, to play in, to work in, and to thrive. And coming closer to today's theme, it is part of our work as government communicators to empower citizens like yourselves with information on where to report the acts of abuse and any form of abuse, especially the cyberbullying. I think I've already shared the number. However, as government communicators in the crime prevention and justice cluster, we are looking at, there are people out there, when you talk to them, they will tell you how justice has assisted, how South African justice system has assisted them. But there are a number of people who are saying it has failed them. But what becomes important for us is to find out, for those who have been assisted, what were the things that enabled them to be assisted, so that we can take those lessons, bring them together in the mainstream, so that they can be internalized, so that each and every person who's got challenges can be assisted, because we also have a responsibility as government to the nation. I'm not shying away of our responsibility to the nation. In the most significant roles of government communicators is to provide the accurate, credible information. We should be very transparent to the public. We shouldn't be hiding anything It's our responsibility. If you are holding us accountable to say, you promised us X, Y, and Z, it should be easier for us to say, we promised you X, we have done X. We promised you Y, we are struggling to do Y because of this and that and that. We promised you Z, we haven't even touched Z because of maybe we forgot. Maybe we are too overwhelmed, but we just need to be transparent, particularly based on what we have committed. We need to work in a very ethical, responsible, and transparent and accountable way. In a world of misinformation and fake news, the government communicators becomes the gatekeepers of truth. We are the ones who are supposed to be sharing information that is credible as much as possible. Remember, sometimes people, they don't spread fake news or misinformation intentionally. It's because of what they have. It's because of what they have heard. So it becomes our responsibility to provide clarity, reason, but also to correct with facts, not just a generalization, but with facts to say, this is not this. Go to there, look at where it is, this is how it should be. We shouldn't be defenders of our wrong acts as government. It's not our responsibility to defend our wrong acts, but it is our responsibility to provide correct information when necessary. Communicators and journalists have a critical role in general, whether you are in government or in the private sector, to counter false narratives, to dispel the myths, and ensure that citizens receive credible information. And by doing so, we then get to empower the public to be able to make informed decisions and actively engage in the democratic processes. And being a government communicator, it comes with great responsibility. Similar to journalists, we have to uphold high levels of integrity. Ethical standard is paramount, and our words and our actions, they have power to shape the public opinion and influence decision-making. And coming closer to home, as students, you represent the future of this nation. And whether you aspire to become government communicators or pursue other paths, the value of effective communication cannot be underestimated. By developing your communication skills, you contribute to building a more informed, empathetic, and united society. Embrace the power of dialogue, because we generally need not to fight. Let's engage. Let's talk. Let's reason. Let's talk about facts. Listen to diverse perspective, despite of the background of a person, and cultivate the ability to convey your thoughts clearly and respectfully. I underline respectfully. In conclusion, as you envision your own future roles in society, remember the importance of effective communication in shaping a brighter and more harmonious South Africa for generations to come. Always have in mind what are the unintended consequences of what I'm about to communicate. Whatever path you take, be intentional about producing the content that builds, that empowers, and hold yourself to the standards you want to see in the world. You are all storytellers in your different capacities, whether personal or otherwise. Let your content contribute to nation building. Let us create the change that we want to see. And in closing, I would like to thank our sponsors who have made this day to be successful. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have reached with so much content that we have received, both to yourselves in this venue and to online viewers. Salient, our media partners, the National Research Foundation, and the MDDA for making today possible. We highly appreciate your contribution towards empowering women and youth of our nation. Let us be builders, like how Mama Helen Nontando Jabavu, who through her writing and reporting influenced and shaped the future of what we live in now. Let us be like Mama Joyce Esikakane Rankin, who joined the World newspaper at the age of 20. So don't ever think the age is a limit. And I, for one, I don't subscribe to the notion that says the sky is a limit. Sky is not the end. You can go beyond the sky. Let us be like Mama Ruth First, who wrote about social injustices, because ours is to change and shape the nation. She wrote about labor issues, because without enabling labor environment, as journalists, you wouldn't be able to achieve and realize your vision. And those labor issues that she wrote about, they've shaped the current laws that we have today. I thank you.
Very well said. The sky is not the limit, it's actually the beginning of many possibilities. We're going to allow questions.